Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning. Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Brighton Cott.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
It's a sunny morning.
That's
Yesterday
right.
it was a bit cloudy and windy.
Yeah.
And this morning it's sunny and it's good to be up early.
Well, there was this crazy downpour in the middle of the day here
Yeah.
in Belize City. I was a bit concerned for a while. But of course, it was just a passing shower. And the beautiful weather is back. I got to tell you, you move around the city this early, and there's so many people out there exercising, getting healthy. It really is great to see.
And also a lot of people on that hustle and bustle in the early morning trying to make that extra dollar. It's very nice to see people up and going this early.
That's right. Of course, it is a Wednesday. It is midweek, and we're going to have a great informative show lined up for you. But there is still a lot going on from our newscast last night.
Yeah.
We saw the official transfer of Jasmine Harton, who's been charged with manslaughter by negligence for Superintendent Jamat. And we saw her transfer take place from San Pedro to the Covid Foundation. Of course, one of the things we do know is that there is supposed to be a bail application that will be pursued on her behalf. So that's still a story that we are following, and one I know that still has captured the public's attention.
Certainly, we look forward to see what the developments of this particular case will be in the near future. And also there was the situation with the competing bus runs that's happening, particularly on the Northern Highway. One of the things that stands out for me immediately is just the risk to public safety that comes up in such a situation where you have buses competing to try and get passengers on the bus, and just the lack of strategy or the lack of organization within the transport system. It's one that worries me as someone who catches the bus from time to time.
It's such one. Let's say this: if you live anywhere along the Northern Highway, this situation comes as no surprise to you. You would have witnessed it as a driver, as a passenger, as somebody who perhaps just travels along that highway. There are specific hours where you see a race to be able to get passengers ahead of the other bus, and it is extremely unsafe to all involved. But it has been such a long-standing situation. Now, there are a few challenges here, because remember, there is the transport department, and then there's also the traffic department in the municipalities. And that's that overlap that happens or that the differentiation in roles is a critical one to look at. Who's issuing these permits? What runs are being given? Are they following through in ensuring that people are complying? And while, yes, as a passenger, I'm sure you want to get there as quickly as possible, so first bus will come that work. It shouldn't be where they put your life or your safety at risk.
And we know that there was just the appointment of a new chief transport officer, so I'm intrigued to see how this person goes about trying to navigate these particular issues and trying to resolve these disparities that's happening.
Absolutely. It is a critical situation, and as I said, it's something now that's in a wider discussion, but definitely not a new problem that we have been seeing. And there's also quite a bit of discord coming out of the United Democratic Party as well, following a video that was released or made public on Monday. And we saw by the end of the day, this was a video that showed Honorable Patrick Faber, the leader of the opposition, becoming very heated in a situation with the mother of his child, and it prompted an apology or I should say an explanation by the end of the day by the leader of the opposition, but it seems to have upset people within the party as well.
Yeah.
And there are murmurs. Of course, we hear from one side saying that they're asking him to step down, while the officials from the United Democratic Party are saying not so, but clearly it caused quite an upset.
Certainly. When you're in a public space as such, particularly in Parliament, there's a certain code of conduct that the wider population expects from our representatives, and to have seen something like that on video, it's a bit mind-boggling, and it's infuriating for many, particularly considering that we are in the era of trying to end domestic violence, and we're trying to end the abuse of women, and all these different things comes up. So certainly it's something that the public is watching, and we would like to see what will come out of these particular discussions going forward.
So there you have it. That's the official release coming out from the UDP saying that, of course, nothing has taken place in terms of the change in status of the leader of the opposition. And so that's an important note to make, that the party itself is not feeding into the rumor mill that has been the rumor mill that has been pushing out the idea that he's been asked to step down or been forced to step down. But I think you're right. The public conversation has been once again agitated to look at domestic violence. That's one issue, but also the expectations that we have of elected officials.
Right, right.
Yeah. But of course, there's a never shortage of news as to what's happening in the country. And so you can look forward to the major developments on these stories and more in our newscast tonight at 6 p.m. Okay. We got to get moving into a show, which means it's time for our Eye Opener. And that's your motivation boost to get your day started. And this Eye Opener is taken from dailyom.com, and it goes like this. A hard day can sometimes be a great teacher if we stop for reflection. We all have days that seem endlessly difficult and hard. On these days, it is as if the odds are stacked against us and we just can't get a break as one challenging situation follows another. We may feel like we're standing in the ocean, getting hit by wave after wave, never able to get a full breath. Sometimes it's necessary or worth it to stay in the fray and work our way through. Other times, the best idea is to go home and take the breath we need in order to carry on. If the only choice is to get through it, a hard day can be a great teacher. It will eventually end, and we can look back on it taking pride in the stamina, courage, and ingenuity it took to hold our ground. We may also look back and see how we could have done things differently. Sometimes, all that's needed is a good night's sleep. No one is immune to having a hard day, and these are usually the times we can learn the most. If we can find it in our hearts to examine the day and maybe make one small change in perception, we can ease our pain and greet the next day that much wiser.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think about Murphy's Law immediately as I saw it. One of the things that I truly despise is just when things are supposed to be going as planned.
Yeah.
And out of the blues, we're going to see something happen that completely disrupts the flow of what you're supposed to carry out for the day. And I just blame it on Murphy's Law. It's like, expect the unexpected, and especially in the moments when you're supposed to be carrying out an activity that is super important. And the best thing to do is just take a deep breath, step back a little bit from the situation, analyze what's happening, and that's how you develop resiliency as an individual. Yeah, you're able to bounce back faster than you actually thought.
Well, you know, I love the eye-opener, and I think two things stand out. One, the imagery of that feeling of standing in the ocean, being hit and hit and hit. Or you could use like boxing analogies. When you see people in a boxing ring and you just see them getting weaker and weaker after each hit, and sometimes it's just this snap turnaround.
Yeah.
But that's one thing. And secondly, that we all have tough days.
Right.
We all have tough days, and you know what we define as hard is different on an individual level. It could be challenges with your children. It could be challenges with work. It could be financial challenges. It could be perceptions of people on the outside. You could be facing public scandal. We all have them.
Right.
I think it just brings us back to the fact, one, that it is something that we know other people go through as well. But the sense of control that you have about what you're going to do, that's what it really is. It's regaining that control to say, okay, it may be bad, and you have two options. You can quit, or you can commit. You can withdraw yourself from the situation because that's what you feel like you need to do for you, or you can commit to get through it. And it's the two options that you have on the table. The choice is yours, and you're the only one who's going to face those consequences. But the final part of taking that time, not just letting that hard day be over and then you're like, oh God, okay, good. It's taking that moment to say, okay, what can I learn from this? Either to prevent it or to know how to respond as I face that situation again. So, you know, I love that eye-opener. I think that's such a, you know, teach your kids that, teach yourself that, and remind yourself as much as possible.
You control how you react to certain situations you're in, and so long as you control it, you're able to navigate the situation better. And you're not going to feel the impact that it's going to have on your daily lives.
Yeah, and it really is a testament to your character as well.
That's
what it really boils down to. But, you know, we really hope, and, you know, I got to say, I know there are a lot of people out there facing some tough days. Things are tough in this country right now. And it could be anything. It could be loss of a loved one. I mean, I could go the full gamut. As I said, hard days are based on your individual things that impact you. But ultimately, you know, this is a great lesson for all of us, and we hope that it helps you today. All right, but we got to get moving into our weather update. We got Catherine Cumberbatch on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, Marlene, and that's the name my parents gave to me, Catherine Cumberbatch.
That's right, and a well-known name in this country. Catherine.
I knew a way it was well-known.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And tell us what we can expect for today.
Okay, Marlene and host, we expect that the weather will continue to be mainly fair. Mostly sunny skies today, and the forecast high temperatures for today, we expect 89 along the coast, 89 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 96 inland, and 86 in the higher elevation. For the nighttime, we expect partly cloudy skies with some clear spells, and the low temperatures are forecast to drop to 80 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 73 inland, and 68 in the hills. As for shower activity, that will be general isolated. But one, we must mention that although these showers are isolated, sometimes they become very intense at times. The winds will be blowing from the east at 5 to 50 knots, and the sea state will be slight. The outlook through to Thursday night is for partly cloudy skies, and shower activity will continue to be general isolated.
Okay.
Now in the sargassum forecast, the threat of sargassum affecting our beach continues to remain high. And the tropical weather outlook for the North Atlantic, the Caribbean Sea, and the Gulf of Mexico, no tropical cyclone formation is expected during the next 48 hours. And that's what we have for you this morning, Marlene.
All right. I hope you deliver that last line to us for as long as possible.
I hope so, too, and it'll make my life much more easier here at work.
That's right. Catherine, thank you so much for that update today, and we do take note of the fact that if we get that isolated showers, that it may be quite a storm.
It could be a little bit intense at times.
Yes.
Okay?
All right. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too, and stay safe.
You too. All right.
I certainly do hope the showers stay away from Belize City, and particularly because I'm training again for beach volleyball, and we don't like the rain. It disrupts the flow of things.
It cools things down. Be optimistic. All right. We got to get moving into our lineup for today, though. And as I said, we have a very informative show lined up for you. We're starting off with a conversation with the new executive of the Public Service Union. There's quite a bit to find out from them. What's their mandate moving forward, how they plan to sustain their industrial action, and the vision of the new president.
And then we move into the second part of our show for this morning, where we're going to be speaking with representatives from the healthcare partners. We're going to be talking about the work of the intensive care unit and also trainings that this particular organization has done to assist other countries in their fight against the COVID-19 pandemic.
All right, and we're closing off with a familiar face, but of course she's going to be talking about her new capacity. Jamie Lee Rock is going to be joining us, and she has been recently voted in as the president of the UE Alumni Association Belize chapter. She'll be talking about her plans about how to get all the alumni of this very prestigious university, which quite a few people have attended, and her vision for the Belize chapter. So that's going to be our final conversation for today.
Yeah.
All right.
And before we go to our first break, we're going to be sending a birthday shout out to Tariq Peterson. Tariq Peterson, enjoy your birthday, buddy, and I'm sure your family is going to make you have a blast today.
4 years old. That's a big one. All right. We hope he has a great day. I'm sure he's going to have some great cake. That much I can guarantee you that. All right. So with that, we're going to take that break. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by the new executive of the PSU.
Good morning, sweetie. It's time for school.
Are you a teacher or public sector employee who is thinking of owning your new home? Get the keys to your new home with Belize Bank's all-inclusive mortgage, the best financing option in Belize for your new home purchase or construction. Inclusive of all mortgage-related fees, no down payment, affordable terms, amazingly low interest rates. Visit our nearest branch to speak to one of our financial advisors to discuss how you can be one step closer to owning your new home. Some conditions apply.
Hola, Tony.
Hey, Kevin, ¿qué onda? ¿Qué pasa?
Nada, le vine a buscar porque necesito comprar más mercancías de vasos y platos desechables para mi tienda de comestible. Me estoy quedando sin esas cosas.
No, hombre, fíjate que desde el 15 de abril no puedo importar nada de eso. Y se me acaba de terminar todo lo que tenía hace como 3 semanas.
Oye, pero nunca has estado sin esas cosas. ¿Qué está pasando?
Mira esto. Esta es la nueva ley que prohíbe todo el uso de plásticos no reutilizables. Esos son vasos, platos, cucharas, tenedores, todo eso. Desde 15 de abril de este año no he podido importar nada de eso. A partir del 15 de enero del 2021 nadie puede fabricarlo. 15 de abril 2021 nadie lo puede vender. Y a partir del 14 de julio del 2021 si alguien te agarra con eso, te multan.
Híjole, no sabía eso. Necesito cambiar algunas cosas. Les diré a mis clientes por qué esas cosas ya no están disponibles. Gracias, Antonio.
Así es, cuídate.
Available now at Bravo Motors.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
And welcome back. We move into our first conversation this morning with the new executive of the Public Service Union, where we'll be discussing quite a few topics for discussion, everything from the general elections this weekend to the continued strike action to what the new executive has in store for moving forward. We have with us this morning the president of the Public Service Union, Mr. Dean Flowers, the first vice president of the Public Service Union, Anissa Gonzalez, and the second vice president of the Public Service Union, Mr. Philip Tate. Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us.
Good morning, Belize.
So we want to move right into the discussion with what happened this weekend, which was the annual General Assembly, as well as the new elections being held, that is, and the results of the elections. So, Mr. Flowers, can you please share with us what the results were and how did the General Assembly go?
Okay. Well, over this past weekend, the 28th and 29th of May, we held the 99th Annual General Meeting of the Public Service Union. It was a very successful event. More than anything, of course, more than anything, what was celebrated was the fact that we're 1 year away from our 100th anniversary, which we hope to celebrate in grand fashion. For this 99th year, which comes up on July the 15th, we certainly will be also engaging in a national discussion and ensuring that we have our union visible and at the forefront of the conversations, of our conversations come July. Over the weekend, we had Brother Mose Hyde, Evan Mose Hyde as our guest speaker. Mose provided us with a very motivating speech and encouraged the union, of course, to bring back that spirit of true unionism and to promote, at all times, promote camaraderie and a strong union spirit for us to be able to rebuild the union as we have in fact, and we must acknowledge that over time we have lost a little bit of that fire that used to burn in the union. Yeah. The first day was primarily the business sessions where we heard from different branches, and of course we went over our financial statements and our different committee reports. On the second day, we held the elections. The post of president was uncontested, and so myself was elected president, but in an uncontested fashion. Mm-hmm. For the post of first vice president, which was contested by Sister Anissa Gonzalez and Brother Herman Pastor, Sister Gonzalez was successful. For the second vice president, Brother Philip Tate went up against Brother Beresford Codd. I think you know that name, Brighton. and Brother Tate was successful. The post of General Secretary was uncontested, and Sister Tricia Paris was elected to that post. And for councillors elected to serve for the next 2 years were Sister Agnes Novello and Sister Amada Carrillo. Sister Agnes is, of course, from the Belize City branch. Sister Amada is from the Corozal branch. And they beat out Brother Felipe Munoz and Brother Santiago Acosta. Munoz is from Orinjo, Brother Acosta is from Sten Creek. Yeah. And we had one post one post for a trustee, and Brother Pablo Gonzalez of Corozal was successful in that post. So those were the individuals elected over this weekend.
Okay.
And other than Sister Gonzalez, everyone will be serving for 2 years. Sister Gonzalez will only be serving for 1 year, and that is because I was holding the post of first vice president, and I have served in that capacity for 1 year, and I vacated that post. So
okay,
next
so it's
year
to complete your term.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me hear from Anissa and Philip about why you were motivated to run for the executive. Let's start with you, Anissa.
Thanks, Marlene. Well, as you know, we have been going through a rather, I don't want to be negative, but we have been negatively showcased as seen on the media and even within. I felt it was time for us to move forward, and I was mandated by members to assist with that. We want for the public to recognize, that like Brother Dean says, this union has been around for 99 years. It's very obvious that it has made its impact over the many years where leaders have come forward to the table with government. I thought it was time for me to take up that mandate and help the union move forward in a better way.
All right, and for you, Philip?
Yes, good morning again, everybody.
Yes.
And thanks very much for the opportunity. I felt that it was an opportunity to serve and to be able to continue to contribute. I've been a long-standing member of the Public Service Union, and I feel that given the issues we're facing now, it's just part of the participation and engagement with our membership to ensure that we can truly make a difference in trying to make some of the adjustments that are needed in this country. And even though the Public Service Union is not the loyal opposition, it has a responsibility to our membership as well as to be able to ensure that we can contribute to the development of Belize.
Yes. Now, I want to dive into one of the issues that we don't discuss enough, and Dean, maybe you can talk us through it. How representative is the Public Service Union? What's your membership compared to the actual amount of public servants that we have, and what's been your rate of growth?
Okay, very good question, Marlene. It's a conversation that whenever it comes up in the media or in the morning shows, there's always this misinformation. The discussion does not reflect the facts. I have tried my best over the last couple of months to explain clearly that where the public service is concerned, the public service is comprised of approximately 15,000 public offices. Of those 15,000 public offices, while the Public Service Union is the bargaining agent for all public offices, not all public offices are able to be a member of the Public Service Union. So immediately you have to start eliminating the security forces, which is responsible for approximately about 5,000, because we're looking about 2,000, over 2,000 for both police and BDF. Combined, that would be in excess of 4,000. You would have to also remove the Coast Guard offices. So they account for about 5,000 of that 15,000. We're now down to 10,000. The teachers represent approximately 3,500.
Government teachers.
So yes, well, no, all teachers.
Okay.
Because where the BNT is concerned, it doesn't matter which institution, whether you're government aided or fully government. Government funds 70% of most of these non-government institutions.
Okay.
And that's the reason when you hear about a conversation concerning a 70-30 and proposal 22, which has kept the joint union in a 13 years collective bargaining agreement that we're unable to sign off on, it's because of that. Because Government teachers would, of course, collect their 100% pension, while if you're on a government or grant-aided school, you only get 70%, and the school is responsible for that additional 30%, and that is one of the kinks that has not been able to work out. So all teachers, and so the BNTU negotiates on behalf of all teachers. So you'd remove that 3-5, and then when we look at the real numbers, we're down to about 6,600, based on my numbers, 6,600 public officers that the public service union will be able to readily represent in the event of anything. Of that, our membership hovers around 3,000 members. In terms of growth on our growth rate, it has not been as prolific as we would have liked to see. And this is something, and I'm very pleased that this is one of the pillars on which I campaigned upon, and this is one of the conversations that I've been having with the two vice presidents in terms of how do we make our union more attractive once again, how do we retain members, and more importantly, how do we attract new members. And it has to start, of course, again with an educational campaign about unionism.
With about 50% representation, from your own experience, what is the hesitation that people have with joining the union or associating with the union?
They simply don't comprehend, or that they're not able to relate to the principle of unionism. You would hear questions such as, what has the union done for me? People don't appreciate the fact that the very fact that they have a safe work, the fact that they have a process by which they're hired and fired, the fact that we have a grievance mechanism in place in terms of how they're disciplined. People don't understand that these are all as a result of the existence of a union. The fact that they only work 8 hours a week, 8 hours a day, and 40 hours a week. These are fights by the union. The fact that we're currently in negotiation with the government, and the government has not heavy-handedly, even though to a certain degree it has, acted unilaterally. The fact that established workers enjoy a different, and this is not a good thing, but they enjoy a different status than open vote workers who with a signature can be sent home after working 10 and 20 years in the service. These are things that the union fought for, and these are things that we continue to fight for. So again, it goes back to my earlier comment that people simply have not been in touch. We have not been engaged with our general membership, and our young workers are oblivious to why a union exists and why a union should exist and why they should join a union. And so Brother Tate, who is responsible for membership, has a human task ahead of him, and I want to reassure him that as the leader of this union, he will be afforded with all the necessary resources to ensure that we get back to basic, which is communicate, and effectively inform and educate our membership.
On that point, I want to move directly into what's happening within the union itself. On Saturday, there was the assembly, the annual general meeting, and not present was the former president to deliver the president's report, which is usually expected at the general meeting. How do you evaluate, as the new president, the accomplishments of the former president?
I believe that as a union, much was accomplished under the leadership of Brother Henry. I believe that Brother Henry enjoyed the support of a very young executive, and an executive that was always willing to work. It is unfortunate, of course, the manner in which he exited the presidency, but if I had to give him a score in terms of his accomplishment, I would probably say a 6 out of 10. But it wasn't as beautiful in terms of all that we could have accomplished. Again, I think there are clear areas in which we could have improved, but I think it was a learning experience for all of us, because we're dealing with personalities here, and so we must understand that while we don't think alike, it doesn't mean you're right and I'm wrong. We must learn to respect each other, and we must learn to coexist or perish. If we continue to preach division, we will perish together as fools. And so, as I said, in any organization, these things are bound to happen. So I don't think that it would be worthy of our time and an injustice to your viewing audience for us to dwell on that negative part on how he has exited the union.
And we have some critical issues to discuss as well, especially the industrial action. But I do want to give you the chance to respond to the public sentiment that Mr. Henry was being forced out of the position.
And these are some of the questions that you have to ask yourself. Who is saying them? Where are they coming from? You know, there's always this quote that listen to what is being said and who is saying it, and you would then get your answer. For 3 years, Marlene, I can reassure you, and the general public is testament or can be the jury of this. And not once did these kind of conversations come up, whether in public or in private. We have a membership with whom we've engaged extensively over the last 4 months, and not one day, even when we had a membership of almost 500 people in one of those forums, not one day did these kind of comments came up. So now that we're at this juncture of in terms of the transition of leadership, you're hearing these kind of assertions, and I want to apologize for the dogs and the neighbors' dogs, I guess, and they have a field day this morning.
That's the Belizean soundtrack early morning.
But yeah, I really don't know where they're coming from. I would really like to see, and of course I've listened to a couple of the interviews, but nothing that has been said has been able to clearly demonstrate where in fact there was a concerted effort to remove Brother Henry as from the leader. Unless, of course, he can bring those documentary evidence, then I will have to simply respectfully disagree, but respect his opinion.
Yeah, so I want to move into the relationship that the Public Service Union has with the teachers. The teachers and the Public Service Union has been walking step by step throughout this entire process, especially with the ongoing strike action. However, sources have suggested that there was a joint release that went out sometime last week, whereas the experts from the Public Service Union were not necessarily a part of the development or craft of that joint release. Has that caused irreparable damage between the teachers and the Public Service Union in your perspective as the new president? Or is that something that's reconcilable with moving forward with the relationship with the teachers?
Absolutely not. I can say with much pride that one of the first persons that contacted me was Sister Elena Smith of the BNTU to congratulate me and to invite me to a meeting. So again, utter nonsense if there is any semblance or suggestion that there may be some fracture there. I'm expecting to meet with her this week, and she told me, of course, that she'll be courteous enough to come to Belmopan. So I believe that says a lot, rather than me going to Belize City. Yeah. So we will discuss, of course, the response. In terms of input, the signature of the president of the Public Service Union of Belize was there. He's the legal signatory for the union, or was. And so we have to respect the fact that he was satisfied with the content of the response given. In terms of, I know for myself as first vice president, we did our consultation and we provided input. The letter might not be a reflection of what we all wanted to see, but nothing is written in stone. And so if anything was said or anything was omitted from that letter, it can be easily corrected. And I can say it to you as a matter of fact, where certain content of that letter, which relates to certain circulars that were released yesterday as it relates to the 5 hours work week, and when we cut down to the 10% less work hours, the reduction of the work week by 5 hours, I will be sending correspondence to the Ministry of Public Service this morning for some clarity on that, because that isn't as simple. That won't be as simple to effect as they believe it is, and how those circulars purport that it should work. So definitely we want to engage the Ministry of Public Service, who sent out those circulars, effecting those, and we'll get the clarity. So all is not lost, and nothing is lost where the correspondent is concerned, and what may be in it or what may not be in it.
Let's move to some of the issues here. Of course, that the public has been monitoring the ongoing impasse that's spanned from, it's over 5 weeks now. The Public Service Union, as you said at your AGM, received a mandate from your membership who participated to say that you want to continue with industrial action. Of course, you know that the BNTU has made the decision to put their hold on strike, and they have returned to the classroom. Now, let's talk about moving forward with the industrial action. The 10% cut has gone to the House. It has, in fact, taken effect. The workers who go on strike will face a salary cut, or have faced a salary cut, I should say. The Protected Disclosure Bill was introduced. So the question today, of course, is, what are you still on strike for?
Okay. Where the 10% salary cut is concerned, that has still not been, while government, of course, has rammed that through the House and rammed that down our throats, we're not easily going to give up that conversation so easily. And so that remains a very much live issue, irregardless of the unattainable targets that the government has set before us in an effort to compensate or to offer some kind of compensation. Anything that is taken away from you, any property that is taken away from you, Marlene, by law, you must be compensated. And so that conversation, that while the cuts will be effected, we must address the issue of compensation. And that will forever be a burning issue, and that will forever be at the forefront of our fight for the next 5 years, if that's how long it takes. But we will not be bullied, and we will not be taken advantage in this kind of manner. We treat the government with respect, and we expect that equally they will return that respect to us. In terms of the Protected Disclosure Bill, yes, it has been introduced to the House. We are still in the process, and there was a deadline within which we should have responded, but that doesn't change the fact that there is still time for consultations. Consultations are still going through. It still has to go to the House committee to take into consideration all the input that will come from the general public, from the private sector, from the unions. And so all is not lost. And I want to reassure the general public that where the union's input in that bill is concerned, we're very much alive. We're very much working on that. And we will be ensuring that that bill is strengthened, because our preliminary views is that it simply does not capture all that we want to see in it, especially where enforcement and protection of whistleblowers are concerned. You cannot have whistleblowers registering who they are or registering to any specific entity. Whistleblowers is supposed to simply send in whatever information they have, and you carry out you assess that information, and you carry out the investigations to ensure to either dispel or dispel or ascertain whether the allegations are true. So, of course, Madonna, good governance is ongoing and continuous, and that is the clamor from our membership for us to do more where that is concerned. That is the cry from the general public for the unions to do more. And so from now until thy kingdom come, we will be in the face of this administration, in the face of any future administration, to ensure that Belize improves where corruption is concerned. We cannot continue along this path, and we must be held accountable, and we must hold those in leadership accountable.
Let's get Anis and Philip in the conversation again to share their perspective as members who supported the strike and now as the executive who will carry it forward. Give us your perspective.
Well, Marlene, from the onset of the strike, we have been on the ground. And then, like what Brother Dean had said, you know, we need to effectively communicate to our members within first, and then move outward to the public of some of the things that are ongoing. There is a lot of misunderstanding of the nature of why we're still on strike, you know, and those are the areas that I would want to focus on, that we listen to who our audience is, who are our public officers, that we get the feedback from them, and then that we work on that. These are some of the areas that while we were on strike, you know, we did a lot of information days. Many times doing the information days and visiting the departments, many public officers weren't aware of some of the things that were on the table. This has to be improved on. So going forward, this is something that will be a continuous information that we would need to be putting out, you know, as we move forward with the government.
Philip, tell us about the sustainability, especially since you have the mandate of membership. Numbers matter. And the teachers really, they have always been, anytime there's protest action, they're the ones that can and do bring out the numbers. How do you keep an effective strike going when you won't be able to have the type of presence that was there before?
Go ahead, Brother Philip. No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Sister Predo. Go ahead. I will follow through as soon as you finish.
I like when everybody wants answer.
This is one of the issues while we were on strike. Many public officers' sentiments were, we want to go on strike, but there was a blockage of what they could do in certain sectors, like the health sector. And they strategized themselves within. It might have been one or two, but that was how they strategized themselves. And this was what we broadcasted to when we were doing the information days. From within, strategize yourself on how you want to effectively show that you are on strike.
Part of the issue is that within the public service, there are some clear issues in terms of participation from membership. And I think it has to be addressed where members know their rights, because one of the issues is that a lot of young people within the public service don't know their rights in terms of the regulations that is governing all public officers. And the issue is that we have to be able to deal with the issue of membership. And Brother Dean also brought up the issue of education, because I think part of the issue within the public service is that people believe that if you are intimidated and because of some of the issues of the fear of participating, then the implication is dire for some members of the public service, and the participation isn't as robust as we would like it. But nonetheless, I think the new executive has seen fit and clearly identified the fact that we need to focus on our membership to get them to a point where they can understand the implication of what is taking place, how best can we address these issues in going forward, and to be able to ensure that you engage within the union. We can't do unionism by WhatsApp or by Facebook. We need to do unionism by engagement, where we meet our people, we engage them for them to understand their rights and responsibilities in order for us to truly understand the issues and the impact of what's coming and what is already here.
I want to follow up and get the feedback from you, President Dean, about how is it, or your vision of improving or communicating to public servants the importance of being more efficient in delivering services. It's something that has been called upon by the general public, and it's something that's been called upon by also members who are a part of the Public Service Union. What is your take on that?
Bradine, I think you're muted.
It goes back to ensuring that when that seed is planted within the public service, Brother Cad, that it is provided and planted in the right environment. The politicization of the public service must stop. It needs to stop. What the injustice or the poor service that the general public is receiving is a direct result of the infiltration of politics in the public service. If the public service was run by the professionals within the Ministry of Public Service and not by the politicians, we would have had quality public servants within the public service. There is absolutely no induction training, and there is absolutely no education about what is expected of you. There is no real time taken to go over the public service regulations with these new hirees. It's a minister telling you, you have all the power in the world, and you go there and you tell them, I send you there. And I make none of them tell you nothing. And then that individual lacks the educational level, lacks the training, lacks the respect for others. And then we expect them to deliver quality service. Look at the amount of open vote workers that politicians have flooded the system with. Thousands. So there's this argument that they may very well outnumber the amount of established workers. That's an exercise, again, we have to look at, because we also have to address that issue, because it's an injustice for open vote workers to be subjected to this kind of unstable political environment. But how do we improve that, Brother Cad? What we intend to do is that we have engaged the Ministry of Public Service to say, look, we want to be a part of your training sessions so that we can deliver not only a union message, but also that we can deliver a public service message in terms of, we're not here to defend poor performance, we're not here to defend bad behavior. We're here to ensure that you provide quality service and that you conduct yourself in accordance with the Public Service Union regulation. We've also reasoned with the previous CEO, who has now transitioned, but also with the Minister of Public Service, that there is an urgent need for the Ministry of Public Service to start setting up induction training, perhaps quarterly, if not at least annually, where you bring in all of these new public servants, including CEOs, because I can tell you, some of those CEOs are loose cannons. And I'm not the most popular person in the public service and in their eyes, but the truth must be told. They're loose cannon and they're clueless how the public service is run, right? And sometimes it's not even the officers at the bottom that causes these bottlenecks and these push-ups. It's the CEOs, because they're brought in from, in some cases, God knows where. And then we put them in an environment which is supposed to be run in a certain way, but really and truly they come there and they want to run things from a political standpoint, from a power standpoint. So it is not only our responsibility as a union, but but it is the government responsibility to show political will, get rid of CEOs and bring back the permanent secretaries so that the public service can be run by established, trained, and qualified public officers. It is also the responsibility of the wider public to demand this, to demand better. Stop accepting political cronies and flunkies to be flooded into the system, and more importantly, at the highest level. So those are some of the areas, of course, that we will continue to speak out against, and that we will continue to offer solutions, because it's easy to criticize. But I want to say that for every criticism that we offer, we will be offering solutions as well.
But it is also, you know, when you look at it, and I hear your points about open vote workers and appointed persons getting jobs within the public service, but it doesn't take away from the fact that one of the constant criticisms, and I'm not saying all, because we always use a blanket statement, but every single person has identified weaknesses within the public service system. We, the public, who have to interact with the system, identify it. And so if you know this is a constant weakness that is criticized, how do you strengthen your own public image with the members that you do have engaged?
You're muted, Brother Dean.
Brother Dean, you're muted.
Yeah. Brother Tate, I will not endeavor to remember all the public sector reforms paper that has been put out there. But I'm pleased to know that I have a second vice president who has institutional memory on all of those papers. And so, Marlene, one of the first things as the executive responsible for membership, we're also going to task Brother Tate to look at all those studies, all those papers that were put together, and I'll allow Brother Tate perhaps to comment on some of those studies and some of those literature that we can, as a union, incorporate in informing, educating, and improving the mindset and how our members give service to the general public. So very, very valid point, Marlene.
So let's, as we quickly run out of time, let's talk about what lies ahead. There was that letter that was sent out last week, May 25th, from the joint unions. You know, it's very important to be clear. The BNTU's strike is on hold as they pursue the legal options that they have. The PSU is proceeding with industrial action and maintaining your trade dispute. Has there been any openness or consideration from the government side for you to sit down and perhaps be able to hammer out an end to this strike?
We have not heard back from the government. We're hoping that we will. We've always said that we are a lifetime partner with the government, and there's no separating public offices from the government or the public service union from the government. And whether or not another union comes up, unions will always be here and must work with the government. We're hoping that perhaps in the conversation yesterday in cabinet, perhaps there was some discussion surrounding how do the government and the joint unions reconvene around the negotiation table with a view to end the impasse. And again, I want to make it clear, as I do in every forum, that industrial dispute, that impasse that exists, will not go away. It will not vanish. It will not evaporate into thin air. It must be resolved, and it is up for the government to do the right thing, show good leadership, show true leadership, and resolve it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to follow up with a question pertaining to the collective bargaining agreement from 2008. It is yet to be closed. What is your perspective and position on the collective bargaining agreement and closing that as the new president of the PSU?
Well, I'm pleased to report that as part of the consultations with the government, there was a commitment by the government to ensure that we close that CBA this year. And so, as I stated earlier, there is an area of contention for the teachers. Where the public service union is concerned, we have acceded to what has been negotiated over the last 13 years, and we believe that it is time to move on. if there is something that we did not get in that negotiations, nothing stops us from bringing it back in a new CBA. And so we believe that we must move on. We are prepared to move on. However, we understand the spirit of unionism and this spirit of sisterhood that we have with the BNTU, and hence the reason why we're exercising support to them where this 70-30 proposal 22 is concerned.
However, whether or not the teachers agree to the collective bargaining agreement, the PSU will continue on without the teachers. Is that correct?
That would have to be a clear mandate from membership or to my leadership. I can tell you that in the past, that has been the position of membership. But again, we will have to engage with the teachers. We will have to allow good reason to prevail, and we will have to hear from them. And then I report back to my members and say, look, the Minister of Public Service and the Government of Police has committed to bring this CBA to a close this year. And I think they said within 3 months, if I'm not mistaken. And we want that. And so even if it is that we were to move ahead without the teachers, it does not, of course, fracture any relationship with the teachers. It's simply to say that, okay, where the CBA is concerned, we have different views and we take our views, but with respect.
Considering that there are bills on the table to amend the Public Service Commission as well as the good governance bills, how do you envision the development of the Social Partnership Committee the unions agreed to as well as the government?
Brother Ted, you want to weigh in there in terms of the 10th Amendment and as well as but I don't know if the two are interrelated, though, Brighton, in terms of the Social Partnership Committee.
Well, the 10th Amendment to the Constitution, the Public Service Union currently is providing its position and in consultation with other social partners as it relates to strengthening and also trying to ensure that the depoliticization of these entities, the Elections and Boundaries, Public Service Commission, and the other two entities that are involved, we are preparing and presenting our proposal to the House Committee shortly for that position to be taken, and then the conversation begins with our social partners as well to see how best we could get the best fit for the changes that government is trying to implement, because we feel that the politicization is still within the current structure. And I think part of the conversation and negotiation means, because we're not consulting anymore, this is about negotiating to be able to get the best option, to be able to ensure that these entities can effectively serve the purpose that they were created for, to be able to ensure that we can ensure that the mantra of the good governance issues we have put on the table can be enhanced and ensured that we do things differently. This country has to do things differently in going forward. I'll leave it there for now.
All right, and we'll leave it there for now too, because we are out of time. This was, of course, just an introductory interview to the new executive and to get an update as to how you intend to proceed with the industrial action as we move forward. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, and continue to stay safe.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. All the best. Thank you, Blaine.
Thank you.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we are going to be talking about COVID-19 and some ongoing training taking place with other countries. So please, stay tuned.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
Hola, Tony.
Hey, Kevin, ¿qué onda? ¿Qué pasa?
Nada, le vine a buscar porque necesito comprar más mercancías de vasos y platos desechables para mi tienda de comestible. Me estoy quedando sin esas cosas.
No, hombre, fíjate que desde el 15 de abril no puedo importar nada de eso. Y se me acaba de terminar todo lo que tenía hace como 3 semanas.
Oye, pero nunca has estado sin esas cosas. ¿Qué está pasando?
Mira esto. Esta es la nueva ley que prohíbe todo el uso de plásticos no reutilizables. Esos son vasos, platos, cucharas, tenedores, todo eso. Desde 15 de abril de este año no he podido importar nada de eso. A partir del 15 de enero del 2021 nadie puede fabricarlo. 15 de abril 2021 nadie lo puede vender. Y a partir del 14 de julio del 2021 si alguien te agarra con eso, te multan.
Híjole, no sabía eso. Necesito cambiar algunas cosas. Les diré a mis clientes por qué esas cosas ya no están disponibles. Gracias, Antonio.
Así es, cuídate, man.
Available now at Bravo Motors.
Today's COVID update is brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
And welcome back. We move into the second part of our show for this morning, where we'll be speaking with representatives from healthcare partners to speak about COVID-19 and some of the training that has been happening between Belize and other countries. We have joining us this morning Dr. Jorge Hidalgo, we have Nurse Minita Concha, Nurse Bradley, and Nurse Henkis. Good morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Good morning. And we are ICU team at BSPL.
Oh, hi. I know, we have the whole team this morning. So I know somebody, you guys wanted to say a special hello this morning?
Sure. Hi. Greetings from BHPL. Good morning. Yes. Just want to say that, well, my name is Nurse Bradley. I'm Nurse Bradley. I'm a registered nurse here at BHPL, and I also assist here at the intensive care unit. So, yes.
Okay.
Yes, my name is Nurse Henkis. I'm a practical nurse here, and I assist as well where I can in the ICU unit, as well in the COVID unit.
Okay, and then we have Nurse Minita Concha next to you guys. I know she's going to be a part of our conversation this morning. Good morning, ladies, and thank you for saying hi.
And thank you for your service.
Yeah. No, Dr. Hidalgo, thank you for sharing part of your team with us this morning. But there's been quite a lot going on, and this is a great time for us to catch up. First of all, let's just talk about what's happening with your COVID unit. There was a time where there were no hospitalizations, but slowly we're starting to see people being admitted again for severe COVID. How are things on your end?
Well, as locally, despite of everything, we right now still with no hospitalizations at the ICU COVID-19 unit.
Okay.
Of course, as we always say, we need to be prepared. I mean, we continue with training, we continue doing simulations and things because it's important for the team to be ready, because at any point we can get a critical ill patient. For right now, I'm basically happy to say that for the last couple months we don't have no admissions at the COVID-19 units.
But you guys are open and ready in the event that it does happen.
As we saying, our COVID-19 unit is capable to handle 6 critically ill COVID-19 patients. And also we have our general ICU where also we can handle the same amount of general critical ill patients.
Now, Dr. Hidalgo, speak to us a bit about the type of care that is provided to patients who come in with COVID. What are some of the things that they necessarily need in order to have that chance of survival?
Yeah, let's talk about when a patient needs to be admitted to a COVID-19 unit. Of course, luckily, the 80% of patients, they have no symptoms of a mild form of COVID-19. The other 10%, it can have a moderate symptoms, and probably they just need a regular care. But 5% of the patients, they will require to be admitted in a COVID-19 unit intensive care. And then the level of care and the need of oxygen is the critical part. Mean that in our COVID-19 unit, we have, since the simple, we call it nasal cannula, and we essentially, as the patients require, then we increase the level of oxygen and also the different devices. We have a rebreathable mask, also we have something that we call it a high flow oxygen concentrator.
Yeah.
And those are the 1, 2, and 3. And if after these 3 devices, it doesn't work, then the patients will need to require to be connected to a mechanical ventilator that we have right here.
Okay. Yeah, and of course that's the last line of treatment that you would attempt.
Exactly. Most of the time, we trying to avoid a patient to be intubated and also to be connected on mechanical ventilation. At the very beginning of the pandemic, of course, because our knowledge about the condition about the COVID-19 was really poor, then as you remember, around the world, the mortality rate for a patient to be connected in a ventilator was very high.
Yes.
But as our knowledge and our understanding of the COVID-19 condition and disease has evolved, then we have more knowledge now. We still need to know more, but at least with the information we have, then we know how to proceed, the different strategies that we need to use with patients, then the mortality rate is better now.
I'm so glad you said that, because you are absolutely right. It feels like much longer ago, but it was just a year ago where people were getting hospitalized for COVID, and in fact one of the first treatments was mechanical ventilation, which people call intubation, but it's the question I have is, 1 year later, for both you and Nurse Concha, what are some of the lessons that we learned in treating severe COVID-19 patients from the front line itself? Tell us some of the things now that have drastically changed compared to a year ago. Let's start with Nurse Concha.
Okay, some of the things that have drastically changed is that we're much more knowledgeable, and I could say for myself, even in the general wards, the same way that we treated the COVID patient. For instance, I would have a patient in respiratory distress on the ward or great pneumonia. I would use the same lessons and the same things that we did in the COVID ward. For example, I would turn them, I would put them on their side, I would put them in what we call high Fuller's position. And that, being in the COVID ward, gave us a lot of practice. I used to work ICU before, but not that intense. And something that I've seen now is that we're much more versed in taking care of the patient, and we're not that frightened. And for us, for a lack of better word, it's much more easier for us right now. We finally, for example, just the whole logistics of getting patients to do X-ray, to do CT scan, to do lab works, because the CT scans and the lab personnels, they're not attached to the COVID unit. So we had to figure out all of these things, and I certainly believe that we have done well, and we have played a great part in trying to make our patients as comfortable as possible and helping with the mortality rate.
Yes. And for you, Doctor?
I'm glad you brought that up, the point of perhaps the professionals being a bit fearful at the onset of the pandemic and how that has changed. How has that matriculated into the amount of gears that is being used within the COVID-19 unit?
Yeah, this is it's been changing a lot. Now, at the very beginning, we essentially was completely used that we call it the PPE. The protected equipment was more strict, if we can say that. But as we've been learning about and also how the pandemic has been evolved, that is easing a lot. We in our hospital, we still require the PPE because we don't want to take any chances. But in other countries, they are using less equipment, less protecting equipment, and it's essentially they are putting a lot of attention in the type of mask. Most of the time it's a double mask, the face shield, and also they use a gun, a simple gun. Okay. That is in other countries, but we.
But is that because they're vaccinated now? That most frontline workers are vaccinated?
No, because it's for the transmission that is essentially in aerosol. No, the main thing is trying to prevent, to protect for us to inhale and for the aerosol.
Interesting. Okay. Now let's talk about just to show the level of work that you all have put in. you are now conducting trainings with other countries on mechanical ventilation. I know you recently concluded your training with medical teams in Afghanistan, and you're going to be working with medical teams in Ethiopia. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, we have we work together with the American Society of Critical Care, and then one of the key parts for us is to also to be able to offer training to other countries, and of course to our own country, but also to countries that have less amount of resources. And then with that we have the training course that is called a fundamental critical care support training course, that essentially is to teach the non-intensivists as how to manage a patient and how to stabilize a patient until someone with more expertise and more training is available, or that you also be able to transfer a patient to a more resource facility. With that, then we just completed a training for our doctors in Afghanistan, especially for Kandahar and Kabul. We did a training on via Zoom to the group of 30 physicians, and now we are preparing to train more or less 300 physicians in Ethiopia and another group in Nigeria.
This was actually something that, and maybe you can respond to whether the CMEs, the continued medical education, is still ongoing. Because this was one of the beautiful things that came out, you know, one of the silver linings that came out from the pandemic, where the specialists like yourself, Dr. Arriaga, Dr. Cuellar, you all came together and helped other medical professionals in other parts of the country to kind of learn how to manage intensive care patients.
Yeah, that's good that you mentioned that, because since April 9, 2020 to now, Doctora Larga Espada, Dr. Fernando Cuellar, and also Dr. Arriaga and myself, we are conducting 3 times a week CMEs. By now, we probably have more than 145 CMEs done over that period, being that we are, I can say we are only a few countries that are able to do that, with the support of the to Dr. Larga Espada, to the Ministry of Health, PAHO, and other organizations that they help us to maintain that training. And then we have people, our local people, as well as we have speakers from abroad that help us 3 times a week to keep the continual medical education ongoing.
Dr. Hidalgo, as an internist, I'd like your perspective on the skepticism that there is in terms of people receiving their vaccinations. What do you say to people who are skeptical about the vaccine?
Well, you know, during the pandemic, we are fighting 2 things. We are fighting the pandemic, and we are fighting the infodemia, we call it. The infodemia, that essentially there are too much things in the social lines, too much good and bad information, and then we need to be able to try to see the sources we are reviewing, and mean that. But just to put it a simple way, all the both of us are fully vaccinated, and of course, if you say any medication have a side effect on it. There are no medication, even a simple baby aspirin, you can have an allergic reaction. Mean that if when you say that we are massive, essentially vaccinated people, and you see the amount of people with a side effect, then you say you need to weigh the balance. Yeah. And the balance right now, if we want to contain the pandemic, and if we aspire to in any future soon, we can have get back to our normal life, then all of us need to play a role, and get vaccinated is one of those.
How concerned are you? The perception that people have at this moment, vaccination rollout has started. There's been a loosening of restrictions, but the pandemic is not over. And we saw an outbreak in one institution a few weeks ago. We recently recorded a COVID death yesterday, and we do have persons who are hospitalized in the ICU. What's the message to people about maintaining the vigilance in protecting themselves from the disease?
Yeah, as we always say, the pandemic is not over as yet. I mean that we cannot relax, and as you, Marlene, remember always since the very beginning, you as in Open Your Eyes and also us in a medical community have been very essentially strict in trying to tell the people the pandemic is not over. That means that we are vaccinated, we need to continue keeping our social distance measure, wearing our mask properly, washing our hands, keep the social distancing. I mean that those things we need to continue practicing because the pandemic is not over. Even that we are getting vaccinated, we need to continue. We need to try to achieve. Some people say 50%, but others say at least 80% of vaccination to be able to aspire to herd immunity in our country.
With the slow pace of inoculation that's happening across our country, how longer do you see us having to use face masks?
Well, again, right now, the using the face mask is nothing that we can relax, at least, as I mentioned, until we, some people say more than 50%, but some others say 80%. And even so, I think so, we need to continue wearing masks. Some countries like the US, they already released that measure, but of course, this is very controversial because there are many other either political or economical things involved. But for the health perspective, we need to continue wearing our mask.
As you, and we know that you keep very strong relations in the medical community worldwide. As we look at other countries, some right around us that are facing escalating cases, escalating number of cases of COVID-19, moving into what some are describing their third wave. Do you feel that, if we continue on the path that we are right now, that we may end up in the same?
As we always say, the COVID-19 third wave is knocking our door. I said the last time with the second wave, and I'm saying now, we have our neighbor countries, Mexico, Guatemala, with an incredible amount of cases, also Honduras. I mean that it's just across the border. I mean that we need to be vigilant and we need to be prepared for any sort of cases that we can have at any point in time. I mean that we need to have all our measures and everything on alert because at any point in time we can have a surge of cases.
Yeah. The BMDA put out a release over the weekend talking about the reopening of the borders and the concerns that they had there, and they cited several reasons. One of them being that we still have a very low vaccination coverage at this point. I don't remember the exact numbers, it may be over 10,000 people who have been fully vaccinated. Definitely not near the 50 or 80% that we need to have herd immunity. But they also talk about accessibility to the treatment that's being used in other parts of the world locally. Can you talk about that? Because I know you're very up to date with treatments that have been proven effective.
Well, remember that at the beginning of the campaign, the pandemic, we was using many medications. We were using hydroxychloroquine. We knew now that this is not working. We used many other type of medication. Some at the very beginning also we were using a lot of antibiotics. Now we know more, and then the treatment for mild, moderate, and severe cases, we can say we know a little bit more. we still continue in a learning process. There are many medications on trial, but for now, we know if it's a mild case, it's essentially fluids and Tylenol. And also you can have your vitamins. That is nothing wrong drinking your vitamins, but it's not longer recommending any other medication based on the evidence we have now. If you have a moderate case, probably you will need hospital with oxygen, with fluids, again, and fever control, but no more than that. And then for mild to moderate cases, we can use either remdesivir, and also we can use a medication that is called monoclonal antibodies. We don't have available that in Belize. And also we can use tocilizumab, that also is not available. And we can use dexamethasone, that is being proved, that is working with patients, especially those that require to be on a ventilator. Mean that we in the country have available remdesivir and dexamethasone, but we don't have antimonoclonal antibodies, and we don't have tocilizumab.
Nurse Conchak, speak to us a bit about what the greatest challenge has been in your capacity right now.
I would say the after effects is the greatest challenge, because us as nurses, keep in mind that we spend such long hours. We have to focus on ourselves as well, taking care of ourselves. So spending that long hours without probably 6 to 12 hours, 16 hours in the PPE, not being able to use the bathroom or drink water, at the end of the day, that does play a psychological effect on nurses. And I'm looking forward to having seen nurses getting the help that they need, because as I said, we as nurses, we have to look after ourselves first. Another thing, which is the greatest challenge, is that to try to keep these people alive. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of monitoring, and we literally have to, it's not that we have to, but the mere fact that we want to keep these people alive in the ICU Covid unit, we sit inside the room and watch them hour by hour, or we check their vital signs every 15 minutes, depending on the status of the patient. If the status starts to change drastically, we have to check that vital signs every 5-10 minutes and do our actions, and then assess and see if it's still working. Those, I would say, has been the two most hardest part of being in the COVID unit. And I could say that going around, people are being very lax. Even when you catch the bus, for instance, we find that conductors and drivers, they're not vigilant. They would have on just like this cloth mask over them. And I don't recommend that. And being that the surge is rising again, we have to resort back to the surgical mask and the N95, because those cloth masks, they're not helpful. And those will ultimately result in our demise. And worst case scenario is that our healthcare system ends up collapsing just because of not adhering to social distance rules and being able and using not using the proper equipment, because civilians, they need to practice their due diligence, because us as nurses and doctors, we're the last line. But at the end of the day, civilians, you have to take these proper measures in helping us, because eventually we would get overworked.
Let me ask you a question. Let's talk about what is taking place at this time in preparation of the possibility of a third wave. Has there been discussions within your individual institution? And of course, I know Dr. Dalgo, you also work with the KHMH, so the public institutions, as to what we start to do if we see an escalation in cases.
Yeah, we have our unit, as I told you, we need to be prepared for any event. The fact that we have a couple months and still we have time that we don't have this amount of cases, that is also give us some time to get prepared, to make sure that we have the equipment, that the equipment is working, that the most important, that everybody is get the necessary training to be able to manage and to be prepared for an event surge of cases.
Okay. And, you know, we still don't talk about it enough, but COVID variants are a reality, and it's one of the things that if we pay attention to international news, we know that there are always new variants that are being detected, and some of them are more transmissible, and of recently some of them are affecting different populations. The Brazil variant, for example, affecting children. Dr. Hidalgo, this is, of course, a lesson for us to not let our guard down, because these variants can be here, and we would know.
Exactly, and one of the most important things, as you remember, when we spoke the last time about the variants of the COVID-19, that is going to be continued. And then we have now variants that are more transmissible, and of course, if it's more transmissible, there are more people with possibility to acquire COVID-19, and it will depend on what are the medical conditions or what are the different particulars of a patient. Then, of course, the possibility of mortality is always there. Also, as you mentioned, some of the variants are affecting younger population and children that at the very beginning we didn't see that have to happen. And we can, in our country, we can either develop our own variants, because that's the nature of a virus. The virus is always mutating, is always changing. And if we are not able to contain, and we have an outbreak of big number of cases, then that's increase the possibility of a mutation for a virus that is always mutating.
Nurse Concha, I'm glad you brought up earlier the need for us to move back to wearing the proper mask, the surgical mask, the N95 mask. Because at the beginning, or at the onset of the pandemic last year, we saw that there was a very high price for masks on the market, and we've seen that change over the year. How has it been for the procurement of PPE gears within the medical field?
Well, for right now, we always have, our company has always supplied us with the necessary gears, and I could say that now, as I'm agreeing with you, that we could see now that masks are much more easily accessible. But I'm not sure if it's because people are resorting to using cloth masks, do-rags, or bandanas. That's why they're not buying the N95 or the surgical mask. But I could say that we do have a good supply of the surgical mask and the N95 mask.
Well, let's round off the conversation. I think we wanted to highlight a few things. One, definitely, I think it is a moment for us to be proud that our medical professionals are, in fact, assisting other medical teams around the world. And Dr. Hidalgo, you pointed out very clearly, we know what it's like to work with limited resources. So sharing your expertise with other countries that have the same situation is definitely one that's beneficial all around. So kudos to you and your team there for being able to conduct that. But final message to the public about being vigilant as we continue to maneuver our way through the pandemic. Let's start with you, Nurse Concha.
All right, so as I said before, everyone needs to practice their due diligence, because at the end of the day, nurses and doctors are only humans, and these PPEs, they cost, and the manpower, they cost. And I would hate to see that we're spending so much time away from our families. We're spending so much time away from our loved ones because we want to take care of patients. And it's sad to say, and I'll be frank, that we're going to end up taking care of the same people that are not vigilant. We're going to end up taking care of the people that choose to not be socially distanced and choose to not properly wear their mask or even stay home. I know it's very hard and it's difficult to be locked up in your home, but it's better that you travel alone. And I hope that with this, if we do, God forbid, that we do have a third wave, that we have medical professionals that are psychologically and physically able to carry us through that again. So my advice to my beloved legions, continue wearing your surgical mask. As you reach home, you take a bath. Don't gather in large crowds. Do it for you, do it for your family, but also take consideration for the doctors and the nurses that will be involved. Might you make that mistake?
Yeah, all right. And from you, Dr. Hidalgo?
Well, as we always say, this one is a responsibility of everyone, and to be able to continue and to be able to have beliefs as we are right now. All of us, the society, the medical community, you guys are playing a very important role as social media to sharing all this information and ensure that all of us adhere to the social distancing. All of us want the beliefs we have right now, and even better, I mean that we need to play our role. We need to keep social distancing measures, and I believe and I hope that we continue the way we are and even better, but all of us need to do our role.
All right.
Dr. Hidalgo and Nurse Concha, thank you so much for joining us this morning and sharing a bit about what's happening at the Belize Healthcare Partners. And we wish you all the safety and blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
And with that, we're going to take our break, and we come back with our third segment where we'll be discussing with Jamie Lee Rock about the Alumni Association at the UWI.
This COVID update was brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service. Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor, and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky, and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
Good morning, sweetie. It's time for school.
Are you a teacher or public sector employee who is thinking of owning your new home? Get the keys to your new home with Belize Bank's all-inclusive mortgage, the best financing option in Belize for your new home purchase or construction. Inclusive of all mortgage-related fees, no down payment, affordable terms, amazingly low interest rates. Visit our nearest branch to speak to one of our financial advisors to discuss how you can be one step closer to owning your new home. Some conditions apply.
It's a fact that with Smart, you get truly unlimited everything. Only with Smart, you get unlimited data anytime, while with the other guy, it's only double data on weekends. With unlimited data every day with Smart, there's no need to wait. So, it's a fact that our unlimited plans beat the competition. Stop being measured and told when to use your data and get unlimited talk, text, and data. Experience the true unlimited plans with Smart. That's a fact. Make the switch and live smart.
And welcome back. We move into our third discussion for this morning, where we'll be speaking with Ms. Jamie Lee Rock about her new appointment as chair of the Alumni Association for the UWI. Good morning, Jamie, and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Hi, good morning, Brighton. Good morning, Marlene, and good morning, Belize.
I'm on the other end of the seat today, Jamie. So, Jamie,
it feels good to be here, though. It feels good to be on this side.
Oh, you like that side?
I do. I don't mind it at all.
Jamie, speak to us about the Alumni Association and some of the things that you have planned for the association going forward.
Yeah, so the UA Alumni Association is, Belize chapter is made up of every single alumni of the University of the West Indies. So if you are a graduate of any of the campuses, the landed campuses, Cave Hill, Mona, St. Augustine, or the Open Campus, or one of the newer campuses, our Five Islands campus, you are an alumni of the University of the West Indies. And also, if you've participated in any of our certificate courses, you are an alumni. So we are a very, very large network. We are a wide association with so many professionals across our country. And it's such a privilege to be involved in a community like this one.
It's so interesting because if you think of the amount of people who have access, some level of training or education through the University of West Indies, this should be a very large association. What's the status today?
Yeah, you would think that it is. I mean, unofficially, the status is that the association is quite large. But officially, at the moment, the association is not as active as we would like it to be. Like Brighton mentioned at the start, I was appointed, and that has been the case for for the last two presidents. It's not as active as we would like it to be because perhaps there's not enough information coming out about the association, the perks that are available to alumni, the benefits that come with being a professional of the University of the West Indies. And so what I'd like to do under my presidency is implement what I call a 4-pillar strategy that looks at building awareness, building engagement, developing an organizational structure, and highlighting the professional that exists within the UWI Open Campus, the UWI Alumni Association. I have to remember that I have to switch hats because I also work for the University of the West Indies Open Campus.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you spoke about the 4 pillars and particularly the organizational structure. It's something that I'm very fond of. Speak to us about how you plan to go about reinvigorating and re-energizing the input of association from the past graduates of UWI.
Yeah, so I know in past a lot of the strategy has been, well, let me just rely on the support of graduates from my year or persons who are in my class. And that's an amazing strategy. It works, it has its own benefits and its own level of effectiveness. But what I want to do is put out an open call to the entire network. So if you graduated in 1951 or 2021, I want to be able to reach every single alumni and who are interested in really building the UWI name, contributing to the academia that exists within the UWI network, and just really ensuring that the community that exists, the potential of the community that exists is thriving and makes an impact, not only the community, but also our country of Belize.
Now, you know, professionals that have graduated from the University of West Indies? Of course, we can start with the whole legal community, that's one thing, but you're looking at leaders of the country that have passed through the University of West Indies, medical professionals, it's such a wide gamut, or mental health physicians, physicians as well. So there's so many professionals that have passed through that carry influence. Let's just say, let's fast forward to the point where you overcome that hurdle of getting them engaged. You have them now as a part of the association. What do you hope to do with these minds?
Yeah, so that's a really excellent question, and it really speaks to the strategy that I had presented to the UE Advisory Committee, who's currently the team on the back end, serving as a soundboard. But the strategy is to pair people with their specific area of interest. So like I mentioned, it's a 4-pillar strategy, but also it's narrowed down in specific areas of academia, professionalism, social engagement, and community awareness. So each of those categories will have specific committees where persons, if they're interested in research, then we have opportunities for them to lead initiatives in that field or in that sector. If they're interested in public engagement through lectures or a call for papers, we have that as well. If they're interested in maybe just organizing socials, just get our alumni just reacquainted if they graduated in 1971 or 1991. We have that as well. And also, if you are more focused on community-based activism, we also have that. We also have committees surrounding that. So the idea is to just speak to the interests and of the alumni and hopefully engage them in that way. And so they know that they're not only working on things that they can be passionate about, but also making a contribution via the Alumni Association.
You know, alumni associations they play a critical role, an integral role in the development of the curriculum of the university. And how do you foresee the Alumni Association being able to make an impact in that regard?
Well, that's also a really great question, because they're already doing that. A lot of our facilitators, our lecturers, our curriculum development specialists are UE graduates. And one of the things I can say that I authentically love about the university is that they really draw on the expertise and the professionals that they have trained within the university. And so they offer scholarship opportunities for staff, they offer scholarship opportunities for graduates. And so a lot of the really great work that you're seeing is because the university has provided the agency to their alumni, to their students, to be able to continue on the amazing work that the university is doing.
Now, is it unique for us in Belize that our association, Alumni Association, has gone dormant? I mean, are other countries, do they have more robust associations, or this is kind of something that's taking place all over?
I knew this question was gonna come, honestly. And it is unique because the UN name in the region is massive. It has the level of respect and rapport that you would expect of another really popular or well-known university like Oxford or Harvard. Caribbean people love their UWI, and that's exactly what I want to bring here to Belize, because I remember when I was doing my undergrad at Cave Hill, we had the BELSAC Association. BELSAC was very active. When you're there, when you're on campus, it's so easy to be engaged and really get into it. But when you come back home and you start making money, you forget. So we tend to want to forget where you come from. And I want to remind persons that the reason why you're a professional now, why you're able to take care of your family and be the expert in your field that you are, is because of your UE training. And you want to also inspire others to aspire towards that as well. So it's definitely unique in Belize, but hopefully not for very long.
So why are you so interested in this revival? What's the passion behind it?
I want to say that it feels serendipitous. I've been part of a UE family for very long. My mom has been with the UE Open Campus for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
All of us are UE alum. From my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, all of us. And also, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that I work for the University of the West Indies. When I was living in Barbados, I really had the opportunity to see the impact that the UE has in such a small country. And I know the good work that the university is doing. I know of all the perks and the benefits that our alumni are not taking advantage of. And I want our Belizeans to be able to access that same community, access those benefits, access opportunities that our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean are accessing and enjoying and thriving because of those. Yeah. And so I think I just want Belize to be on the same kind of high that our Caribbean persons are experiencing. I mean, I look at Dr. Barnett, who is reaping the benefits of regional and global recognition. She's a UE graduate, a proud Belizean, and she, of all persons, I'm sure that she would understand the platform she has because of her training at Mona campus and doing her undergraduate and her PhD. So yeah, I just want everyone to experience that same access and opportunity and community.
Yeah, there's long been the want for the UWI campus to expand in Belize. We want for UWI experience in Belize to be like that of Mona, that of St. Augustine and Cave Hill. And that's critically important to come from the Alumni Association. How do you plan to push forward the brand of UWI through the Alumni Association?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I want to say that the conversation regarding a Belize campus is not closed. There's always the opportunity. But I also want to make the call to fellow alumni that it's not just my responsibility. It's also the responsibility of all of us as alumni to really push for something of that magnitude. I mean, Belize is in such a unique position, being both a Caribbean country and a Central American country. So we have access to a large population. And also it's just very strategically well positioned for us to have a campus here in Belize. So I think it's just about showing that. And it's also going to have to come from a national level, a government level, but it's just also showing that we have the capacity. We definitely have the land space. There's no denying that. But it's just to show that we have the capacity to contribute to the UE reputation by hosting a campus here in Belize. But we are still proud to have the Belize site operating within the open campus and making waves within that space. So we're also grateful for that.
And many people who've been able to get their higher degree there as well. Jamie, what do people who are watching say, people who've really paid keen attention and say, yes, I want to be a part of that movement? How do they get re-engaged in the process?
Thanks for that question, Marlene. So we have newly established social media platforms. We have a Twitter account, we have an Instagram account, and we have a Facebook account. All of them are UE IAA BZE. Very, very easy, very simple. You can contact us on our Facebook page, or you can send us an email at ueiaa.belize@alumni.ue.edu. All of the information are on our socials, and so it's very easy. On our Facebook page and across our social media platforms, we'll also be putting out targeted calls for the different committees and that are going to be established, so that persons can know how to direct their interest in order to be engaged.
All right. Well, we do wish you the best of luck, and of course, congratulations. It sounds like you have your plans in place, and I know that there are many alumni out there who are hoping to get on board with this vision. Thank you so much, Jamie.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Jamie.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and take our final break. And when we come back, we'll have our wrap up. So stay tuned.
Good morning, sweetie. It's time for school.
Are you a teacher or public sector employee who is thinking of owning your new home? Get the keys to your new home with Belize Bank's all-inclusive mortgage, the best financing option in Belize for your new home purchase or construction. Inclusive of all mortgage-related fees, no down payment, affordable terms, amazingly low interest rates. Visit our nearest branch to speak to one of our financial advisors to discuss how you can be one step closer to owning your new home. Some conditions apply.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Andrea Polanco, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 Belize teams do whatever it takes. Go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 Belize on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Because news is now everywhere, all the time. And so are we.
Smart continues to expand its internet coverage countrywide to help you live a smarter life.
Our villagers are very happy. They are pleased to know that Smart went the extra mile to put a tower in our village so that our villagers can get live stream on their TVs and they can get their kids doing their online classes. I want to say to Smart, thank you for making it possible for us to get internet in Gardenia Village. We really do appreciate it.
Smart continues to take the internet and mobile services to communities across Belize. Now save even more when you bundle your Smart broadband with Smart mobile services. Smart, bringing people together.
And there we have it. We had our 3 conversations for this morning, very interesting discussions. We started off this morning discussing with the Public Service Union about the general elections that were held this weekend, the annual general meeting, everything from the ongoing strike action to the closing of the collective bargaining agreement, and also what the position is for the president going forward.
That's right. You know, very interesting conversation, a new executive in place, and so we got to meet the first vice president and the second vice president as they're going to be the ones leading the union from this point forward. But for me, the key part is really honing in on what is the national issue at hand, the continuation of the industrial action, and you know, we are still waiting to see. We can't say the strike is over. It's not over. BNTU is on hold. The update from APSSM is still pending, but PSU says they'll proceed. And whether or not this will drag out any further, or if there will be a conversation that will resume with government and the union representatives. The public disclosure bill has been introduced. The Attorney General let us know yesterday that the asset recovery and unexplained wealth draft is, bill is in draft mode, and they're hoping to do consultations to kind of review what they have in place and improve it for what will work best for Belize. So some of the good governance measures are there. Is it enough? Will it be what will end the trade dispute that is going on? But we do know that that 10% salary cut, interestingly enough, that the president said this morning, you know, it doesn't mean to him it's a done deal, even though it has been passed through the House.
Yeah, so definitely looking forward to developments in that particular area of discussion. And then we had our second discussion with Dr. Hidalgo and the team from the Belize Healthcare Partners, Belize, where we discussed with them some of the virtual training that has been happening, provided from our Belizean doctors to doctors in Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Afghanistan, and just where we are in terms of COVID-19 and the intensive care unit. We see that there was a death recorded this weekend, and we continue to reiterate the importance of staying vigilant and protecting yourself and others.
Yeah, I know that everyone feels exhausted with talking about the pandemic and thinking about the pandemic, but your exhaustion doesn't mean that we get or we are allowed to let go of the severity of it. And another death taking place over the weekend is just a reminder that there are people who are losing loved ones because this disease is still out there. You know, if you take a look around in the region, if you take a look around in other parts of the world and how they've been battling a new wave, it is not impossible for that to happen to us. We are only 10,000 fully vaccinated, and the time to be able to, and with all the variants that exist out there, we are still very much at high risk. So you must keep on protecting yourself, and you must keep on protecting your loved ones and others as you continue forward. Yes, we're tired, and someday there will be that end to this period in our lives, but it is not now, and we're not there yet.
And as a proponent for the vaccination, I continue to urge our populations out there, particularly our elderly population, people who are at risk, who are vulnerable, please go and get your vaccinations for your own safety.
Absolutely. And I can tell you personally, you know, now that my mom is fully vaccinated, it's just so much the relief that you feel in interaction. It makes such a difference. And so it is important. And can I, you know, for the elderly viewers out there, those of you who are high risk, you know, the potential to hug your loved ones and grandchildren and interact with them the way you used to pre-pandemic, it is definitely worth it. And Dr. Hidalgo said something important. Let's weigh the odds here. So yeah, you might have side effects. Some people get flu-like symptoms with the vaccine, just side effects from the vaccine. Like when you used to give baby vaccine and they're grumpy for a day, same thing. But weigh that versus the fatal consequences that you can face with severe COVID. You know, it's best to protect yourself, so please, we do encourage you to get vaccinated.
And we had our third discussion with Jamie Lee Rock, who was appointed as the chair for the Belize Alumni Association for the UWI Students Association. Certainly, we look forward to see the developments of such a large group of people who have graduated from the University of the West Indies, and just the impact that they can make in the development of UWI in Belize and in the region.
Yeah. Well, of course, we wish Jamie the best of luck. We know she definitely has her plan in place and a vision as to where she wants to go. And, you know, it is a critical institution that has had great impact on shaping some of the leaders, many of the leaders in this country. And I'm not just talking political leaders. You're talking healthcare professionals. We know people who went through UE who are doing some great research in this country, running NGOs, environmental. The list goes on and on. Trust me. You probably have someone in your institution right now who is a UE alumni, and multiple, depending on the size of your institution. So we do hope that they can come together and get the ball rolling, and as she said, take advantage of the opportunities that come from having a strong association.
Yeah.
But that's all the time we have for today. And remember, if you want to contact us, send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com.
You can also connect with us on our Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ.
And on Instagram at OYEBelize. Remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
And start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your hearts open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, please.
A good one.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.